As you sit in your chair and watch this video, notice that no movement is required from you. That you can sit in physical stillness, making absolutely no effort, while not needing to engage your mind. And therefore your mind rests in silence. All that's happening is watching and listening. And that, in of itself, the watching and listening, takes absolutely no effort at all. So as you watch this, absolutely no effort, no urging, no doing is required of you to just be here and watch and listen. Yet, there are internal signals, both physically and mentally, that are telling you there is a sense of doing still. That there's a doer inside that's doing the absence of effort. This is illogical. For how could there be a doer if there's no effort involved? This doer within us, we refer to as our ego. This is this sense within us, this contracted energy within us that we run everything through and identify it as who we are. So even when we're sitting in absolute stillness and silence, doing absolutely nothing, we still perceive ourselves as doing this absence of effort. And it's nothing but how we've been trained. We've been trained our entire life to turn our attention to this concentrated energy within us that we identify as ourself, wrongly identify as ourself, as the doer of everything, even the nothingness. So it's just a misdirection of attention. You could say Advaita, non-duality, is nothing but a misdirection of attention. Because you have duality happening right now. You are somebody who's doing nothing. The misdirection is when we direct our attention onto this concentration of energy, this sense of me within my body, instead of back onto the silence and stillness of our being. It is literally that clear. Meaning that if we can retrain ourself, our egoic self, the one that does this life, if we could retrain it to turn its attention away from it and back onto the stillness and silence of our being, we would then experience the stillness and silence instead of this constant feeling of doer within us. This stillness and silence is the peace that we seek. It is the fulfillment. It is the satisfaction that we're looking for in this video, in the message of non-duality. That's why it said that peace and stillness are permanently present. You are experiencing it right now. That there's absolutely no efforting needed to watch this. So the message is about bridging this misdirection. It's about bridging our attention from the doer of me back onto the being of self, of yourself. Nobody does silence. Nobody does stillness. They just are. That's the permanence. That's the ever-presentness. So notice this as you sit here. That there's absolutely no physical movement. And there needs to be absolutely no mental movement for you to just sit here. turn your attention to the stillness and silence. You're turning your attention away from the doer onto being, onto the silence, onto the satisfaction. And this is simply it. You hear that this is beyond simple. It's prior to simple, because your being is prior to the doer. That's why it's beyond simple, because being is prior to your egoic mind. It's prior to the sense of I, the sense of me. And that's why the mind can never know your being. This is why we don't use our mind. We can't use our mind. We can't use the efforter to know the effortless. We can only turn our attention away from the efforter back onto the effortless of the stillness and silence, and rest our attention there and never leave. This is the bridging. This is the way to remove the distraction of ego, of me, and place your attention onto that which never is distracted, which is permanently still. When you turn your attention back onto self, you can feel a relaxation within the body. Because the ego, the sense of me, its nature is agitation. And you experience what you're attending to. So if you are attending to the agitative efforter, the agitative doer, the agitated me, then that's what you will experience internally. You will always have a slight sense of agitation or lack or resistance. But if you turn your attention to being, to that which is absolutely still right now, which is an experience, because you are experiencing the absence of movement at this very moment. If you turn your attention to that, that's what you will experience. And the inner agitation, the inner restlessness of the doer will die down and eventually completely go away, because your attention will be permanently fixed on being, on that which is permanently content. In the words of the great Indian sages, your being is that which remains. Because as you turn your attention away from the doer, back into yourself, into your being, there is no thing there. Being is non-objective. So you're moving your attention from the object of me back to the non-object of being. To a mind, your being is non-existent, because a mind only knows objects, and your being is not an object. Yet, you will notice that when your attention is on being, you do not disappear. You do not black out. You do not become unaware. Because this is who you are. This is who you have been for eternity. Being is that which remains. And in that which remains is everything. your being needs absolutely nothing other than itself to be itself, to know itself. This is why your egoic mind, which is an object, or the sense of me, which is an object to the mind, is not required to know yourself. Yourself knows itself by directly experiencing itself. You, being, do not have to leave yourself to grab something other than yourself, to bring it back to yourself, to know yourself. You just are yourself by being yourself. You cannot become what you already are, and you cannot be what you are not. Yet, we have spent our whole life trying to become what we are not. We are not our egoic self. We are not the efforter. And this is where most of our issues has come from. So back to the simplicity. Redirect your attention from the sense of me that you refer to yourself as, this sense, this feeling, this belief that you reside in your body somewhere, and turn that back onto the stillness of yourself, that which is at this moment sitting in stillness and silence. It is the stillness and silence. You are stillness and silence, which needs nothing other than itself to be silent and still. Awareness or attentiveness is nothing other than the focusing of awareness. When you focus or become attentive to your sense of me, that means that awareness has moved away from itself. It's moved away from the love of its being, from the wholeness and satisfaction of itself, and it's attending to something other than itself, which is a fragment of itself, which is your me. That's why the sense of me always senses lack. because it's only a fragment of the whole. So when your attention, your awareness, returns and focuses on its source of itself, it regains the wholeness that it's always been. This goes along the lines of what I just said earlier, that being doesn't have to leave itself to know itself. Being and awareness are the same non-thing. So when you turn your attention, when you turn your awareness back onto being, awareness returns to the wholeness of itself and remains in itself, in being. And this is who you are. You are unconditional love, because there's no separation in being. Being is complete unity. It is the absence of separation. This is where happiness, ever-present happiness, resides. Happiness is when there is no sense of lack, that when you feel whole and complete, this is who you are. It's immense peace, for there's absolutely no agitation, no irritation, or no resistance while resting in yourself. Because self, being, awareness is whole and complete. And therefore, there's no resistance within it. Learn to trust that what's being pointed to is reality, is the truth. See for yourself. It's as simple as turning your attention away from the sense of me back onto the ever-loving, peaceful presence of your being, and never, ever turning it away again.